dipping points or drip points. They are called as drip points. So there are very sharp in the tips, and they are pointed towards the downward. Okay, so that the rainwater drops off and run off easily. The root system development is very limited in the tropical evergreen forest. So even the largest trees have neither uh, deep nor large roots. The huge weight of the tree is supported much more by neighboring vegetation, effectively chained together by climbing lianas. As a result, rainforest trees are highly susceptible to uprooting. Many taller trees develop buttresses. So these are the buttresses. We can see the bottom of the trees are buttressed. So the larger to support the weight and the tallness of the trees. Next, the trees in the deciduous forests are well adapted to the scantiness of rainfall. So there's a lack of rainfall during the winters in the deciduous forests. So in order to compensate the lack of moisture, the deciduous trees shed their leaves during the winters. This is the main feature of deciduous forests. This is how they adapted to that particular environment. One of the main features of deciduous forests are tree trunks are very massive. The trunk are very massive, very broad trunks are there in the deciduous trees. The bark is often thick and rough. Branching starts at a comparatively low level. Mature banyan trees has aerial roots to support its branches. These are the aerial roots we are seeing in the banyan trees. So ಆಲದ ಮರ ಗೊತ್ತಿದೆ ನಮಗೆ. ಆಲದ ಮರದಲ್ಲಿ ಬಿಳಿಲುಗಳು ಅಂತ ಕರೀತಾರೆ. ಏನಕ್ಕಪ್ಪ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಮರಗಳೆಲ್ಲ ತಳಭಾಗದಿಂದನೇ ಕೊಂಬೆಗಳೆಲ್ಲ ಹೊರಗಡೆ ಬಂದಿರ್ತವೆ. The huge volume of the trees has to be supported through the real roots. And we move on to the arid plants, how they adapt to the situation provided there. The shrubs are the dominant growth forms of the world's arid regions. Such shrubs are well adapted to tolerate extreme drought and called as xerophytes. So xerophytes are the plants which are adapted to the extreme climates, that is the dry climates. These are the shrubs, the arid climates, the semi-deserts are the desertic conditions. You can see in the pictures the desert plants having predominantly the thorns instead of leaves. So the main function of the leaves is to uh, produce the food, the photosynthesis. So in the process of photosynthesis, there is a loss of moisture from the trees. So as the condition is very scanty rainfall in the desert conditions, so having leaves will be detrimental to the growth of the plants. That is why the leaves are replaced with the thorns. If the plants do have the leaves will be very small and very leathery and having the tiny hair-like structures which deflects the intense radiation coming from the suns in order to keep the plants cooler. These shrubs have shallow but extensive root systems, capture rainwater before it has the chance to evaporate or percolate into the ground. Other plants are adapted to reach water available at considerable depth. Long tap roots enable plants called priophytes. So these are called as priophytes, which are long tap roots. These priophytes can reach very deep into the underground water. Another forms of plants found in the desertic conditions are succulents. So these are the succulents, the plants which store water in their tissues. Most familiar are the cacti. So these cacti, they are able to hold water in their stems, leaves, or special underground formations. So uh, we may you may have heard the stories about the plants storing the waters and the survival in the man versus wild episodes. So moving on to the taiga forest. These trees are well adapted to the cold condition of the taiga. They are triangle shaped. So these trees are triangle shaped because the falling of snow uh, will not um, will not deposit on the surface of the leaves. So these are also the leaves are also tiny, and the triangle shape of the trees also support uh, also uh, detrimental for the collection of the snow over it. Okay. Next, we move on to the animal adaptations. So animals are also adapted in several ways to cope up with the conditions thrown upon them in different types of ecosystems. So animal adaptations are well studied by various um, biologists across the world. We can see the two main uh, adaptations among the animal kingdoms. They are physiological adaptations, that is the body transformations, and the behavioral adaptations. So behavioral adaptations and the physiolo- physiological adaptations are the two types by which the animal adaptations are taking place. First, we move on to the physiological adaptations, how their body parts are um, um, adapted or modified according to the temperatures in their ecosystem. So the first adaptation is thermohygric regulation. So thermohygric means the thermal adaptations. The areas where the temperature is very high, that is in the dry regions or the desertic conditions, the animals have to control their body temperature, or otherwise they may die. They may end up with hypothermia. Okay? Sorry, hyperthermia because of the uh, intense radiation present in the desertic condition. So this is a kind of rabbit called as North American jackrabbit. So we can see the ears are very big. In hot, dry environment, various morphological adaptations evolved with regard to particular organs play very important roles in thermoregulation. For example, various animals have big ears which are useful for cooling the body. The enormous auricles endowed with a thick net of tiny superficial blood vessels act as radiators to cool down the body temperature. So this is one adaptation made by the desert conditions. So there are desert fox which have very big ears and so on. Various animals living in the deserts have this kind of body transformation, especially the small animals. Bigger animals have other kind of adaptations to regulate their body temperature in the desertic condition. This is Gobi long-eared jeboa. So this is a type of mice present in the Gobi Desert. So we can see the huge ears. So the benefit of having huge ears is to regulate the body temperature and also to hear more. All the several animals living in the deserts resort to a kind of behavior called as panting. So thermo, thermal panting. So they breathe heavily to regulate the body temperature. So these are very much present in the desert lizards, which breathe heavily with their tongue sticking out to uh, radiate the body temperature. And small animals living in the desert conditions resort to uh, glut, uh, gular fluttering. Gular fluttering is the term where uh, the neck are vibrating in order to mm, regulate the body temperature. So this is the this is why how the animals living in the desertic conditions regulate their body temperature. Okay. So we all know that the camel is well adapted to the desertic condition. So the huge legs, the long legs, is having long legs stays the body of the animals above from the surface so that the heat of the surface cannot uh, cannot affect the uh, affect the temperature of the body. And also, all the animals living in the deserts have lighter body colorization. So, having lighter body colorization reflect the incoming solar radiation and keep the body temperature low. Okay. And also, they also work as the camouflaging agent. Camouflaging we will explain in the next later part of this webinar. All these animals having light colors in the background, also having the same light background, will uh, protect these animals from the predators. And these animals can store the water for very longer in their body tissues. And also, they store the energy in the form of fat in several parts of their bodies. So, in the equatorial ecosystem, all the animals living there are arboreal, that is tree dwelling. So, ಮರದ ಮೇಲೆ ವಾಸ ಮಾಡೋದನ್ನ ನಾವು ನೋಡ್ತೀವಿ. ಮರದ ತಳಭಾಗದಲ್ಲಿ ಅಂದ್ರೆ on the lower grounds there is scarcity of or the absence of plants in the lower part of the ground because of the lack of sunlight. So ಮೇಲ್ಭಾಗದಲ್ಲೆಲ್ಲ ಮರಗಳಿಂದ ಮರ ಪೂರ್ತಿ ಕ್ಯಾನಪಿ ಅಂತ ಕರೀತಾರೆ. ಮೇಲ್ಭಾಗ ಪೂರ್ತಿ ಮರದ ಎಲೆಗಳು ತುಂಬಾ ದಟ್ಟವಾಗಿ ಹರಡಿರುವುದರಿಂದ ಸೂರ್ಯನ ಕಿರಣಗಳು ತಳಭಾಗವನ್ನು ತಲುಪಲ್ಲ. So because of the lack of sunlight, there is scanty undergrowth in the evergreen environment. Because of this scanty plant growth, there are very few animals living in the ground. All the trees are adapted to living over the branches of the trees. Okay? So some animals resort to flying from one tree to another tree in the tropical environment. So one such example is the flying squirrel. So this animal's body is so developed that it flattens out its body in order to glide from one tree to another tree. There are also several types of snakes which glide from one tree to another tree in the tropical environment. So this animal is called as the sloth, which predominantly lives in the tropical environment. This is very lazy animal which moves very slowly among the branches of the equatorial trees, and it was very much adapted to the treetop dwelling. And these animals' arms and palms are adapted to grab the tree branches. So ಮರದ ಮೇಲೆನೆ ವಾಸ ಮಾಡಬೇಕಾಗಿರೋದ್ರಿಂದ ಅದರ ಕಾಲು ಸಹ ಮರದ ಕೊಂಬೆಯನ್ನ ಹಿಡ್ಕೊಳ್ಳುವಂತಹ ಒಂದು ಸಾಮರ್ಥ್ಯ ಹೊಂದಿದೆ. ತುಂಬಾ ನಿಧಾನವಾಗಿ ಒಂದು ಮರದಿಂದ ಒಂದು ಮರಕ್ಕೆ ಇರುತ್ತದೆ. ಸೊ ಅದು ಮಾಂಸಾಹಾರಿ ಆಗ್ಲಿಕ್ಕೆ ಸಾಧ್ಯನೇ ಇಲ್ಲ. ಮಾಂಸಾಹಾರಿ ಅಂತಂದ್ರೇನು ತುಂಬಾ ಅಜೈಲ್ ಆಗಿರ್ಬೇಕು. ಇಟ್ ಹ್ಯಾಸ್ ಟು ಬಿ agile and very quick to hunt the prey. So this animal is a vegetarian. And there are several species of monkeys living in the equatorial forest are well adapted to living condition of the arboreal condition. So you can see in this picture, this monkey holds the branch with the help of its tail. So the tail can grab the branches in order to move from one branch to another. Another type of adaptation is several animals living in the cold region change their body color. In the summer season, they have very light shaded colors, like this polar bear, which is having very bright white during the winter season, where the temperature is very low. So in order to keep the body temperature high, it has to reflect back the incoming radiation. Okay. So sorry, exposing into the or radiating its body temperature outside, it has the bright white color during the winter. Whereas during the spring or summer, it changes to the purple, the pink colors, so that the temperature of the body remains higher during the spring. Okay. Several birds are also behave like this in the polar or taiga region, where their body color will be brighter or lighter during the summer, and it turns into darker colors during the spring and summer season. So one important adaptation made by the animals is the camouflaging. So camouflaging ಗೊತ್ತಿದೆ ನಿಮಗೆ. So it is having the background color of the color of the background as their body color. It is called as
ಅವ್ರು ಮಾಡ್ತಾವ್ರಾ?
camouflaging. Okay. Animal camouflage can be achieved by different techniques. Mimicry is one of them, which means imitation of a model by an animal. Broadly speaking, the model can be an animal belonging to a different species, a vegetable, to an inanimate object. Two main types of mimicry are traditionally distinguished. One is Batesian mimicry, and the second one is Mullerian mimicry. Batesian mimicry is where an animal imitates the appearance of a species disagreeable to the predator. And the Mullerian mimicry is when different distasteful species present a similar aspect. So, camouflaging is done in different ways. That is one of the way by which camouflaging is done is by mimicking an object or a species of animal or plants or ethnic or leaves. So they form like a leaves or twigs, so that the predator cannot distinguish between the environment and different types of objects. So one type of mimicking is Batesian mimicking, where uh, in these pictures you can see the examples here. So this is the this is a type of wasp hovering above the flowers, having the same color. So it will make this organism disappear in the backdrop. This is called as the example for Batesian mimic. Okay. So ಅದರ ಹಿಂದೆ ಇರುವಂತಹ ಬ್ಯಾಕ್ಗ್ರೌಂಡ್ಗೆ ತಕ್ಕಂತೆ ತನ್ನ ಬಣ್ಣವನ್ನ ಬದಲಾಯಿಸ್ಕೊತದೆ. ಯಾವ್ದಾದ್ರು ಬೇರೆ ಪ್ರಾಣಿ ಆಗಿರ್ಬೋದು ಅಥವಾ ಒಂದು ಆಬ್ಜೆಕ್ಟ್ ಆಗಿರ್ಬೋದು, ಒಂದು ವಸ್ತು ಆಗಿರ್ಬೋದು, ಅದ್ರ ತರ ತನ್ನ ದೇಹವನ್ನ ಹೊಂದಿರೋದನ್ನ ನಾವು ಬೆಟಿಸಿಯನ್ ಮಿಮಿಕ್ರಿ ಅಂತ ಕರಿತೀವಿ. ಮಲೇರಿಯನ್ ಮಿಮಿಕ್ರಿ ಅಂತಂದ್ರೆ ಎರಡು ಸ್ಪೀಸೀಸ್ ಇರ್ತವೆ. ಆ ಎರಡು ಸ್ಪೀಸೀಸು ಸಹ ವಿಷಯುಕ್ತವಾಗಿರ್ತವೆ, ಅಥವಾ ಅದನ್ನು ತಿಂದಾಗ ಒಂದು ರೀತಿಯ ಕೆಟ್ಟದಾದಂತಹ ಆ ಪ್ರಾಣಿಯನ್ನು ತಿಂದಾಗ ಕೆಟ್ಟ ಟೇಸ್ಟ್ ಬರ್ತದೆ. ಸೊ ಅದಕ್ಕೋಸ್ಕರ ಏನ್ ಮಾಡ್ತವೆ, ಇವ್ರು ಇರ್ತಾವಲ್ಲ ಬೇಟೆ ಆಡುವಂತಹ ಪ್ರಾಣಿ ಅದನ್ನ ತಿನ್ಲಿಕ್ಕೆ ಇಷ್ಟಪಡಲ್ಲ. ಸೊ ಆ ತರದ ದೇಹವನ್ನ ಎರಡು ಪ್ರಭೇದಗಳು ಹೊಂದಿದ್ರೆ, ಒಂದೇ ತರದ ದೇಹವನ್ನ, ಅವೆರಡೂ ಸಹ ವಿಷಯುಕ್ತವಾಗಿದ್ರೆ ಅಂತಹ ಒಂದು ಮಿಮಿಕ್ರಿಯನ್ನು ನಾವು ಮಲೇರಿಯನ್ ಮಿಮಿಕ್ರಿ ಅಂತ ಕರಿತೀವಿ. So seeing these pictures here, this animal, this type of insect which is having the same shape and size of the leaves in which this animal is living. Okay. So this tactic will decept the prey from preying on it. Okay. This is one type of locus where its body is exactly like the twigs of a grass. Okay. So same ಹುಲ್ಲು ಯಾವ ರೀತಿ ಇದೆಯೋ ಅದೇ ರೀತಿ ಇರ್ತದೆ. ಅದರಿಂದ ಅದನ್ನ ಬೇಟೆಯಾಡುವಂತಹ ಪ್ರಾಣಿಗಳು ಅದನ್ನ ಬೇಟೆಯಾಡಲಿಕ್ಕೆ ಆಗದಿರೋ ರೀತಿಯಲ್ಲಿ ಅದರ ದೇಹ ರಚನೆ ಆಗಿದೆ. ಇದು this is one of the classical example how an animal adapted to its background. These are the leaves. They are very dried up and wrinkled, exactly like this. This is the gecko. This is the gecko, which is exactly look like a dried leaves. Okay. Now, this is one more example where a kind of locust having the body like the leaves, and the predator cannot distinguish between these objects. Hence, it got away with the hunting. One form of camouflaging is homochromy. Homochromy is that form of camouflage where the backdrop colorization will be adopted by the animals living in that environment. So look at the snake's body color is exactly like the backdrop. So where the dried up leaves and twigs are present. So this is one form of aggressive camouflage or the defensive camouflage. ಡಿಫೆನ್ಸಿವ್ ಕ್ಯಾಮೋಫ್ಲಾಜಿಂಗ್ ಅಂತಂದ್ರೆ ಬೇಟೆಯಾಡುವಂತಹ ಪ್ರಾಣಿಯಿಂದ ಇದು ತನ್ನನ್ನು ತಾನು ರಕ್ಷಣೆ ಮಾಡಿಕೊಳ್ಳೋಸ್ಕರ ತನ್ನ ದೇಹದ ಬಣ್ಣವನ್ನ ಆಕಾರವನ್ನ ಬದಲಾವಣೆ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಂಡ್ರೆ ಡಿಫೆನ್ಸಿವ್ ಆಗಿ. ಸೊ ಇದು ಅಫೆನ್ಸಿವ್. ಅಫೆನ್ಸಿವ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಏನಾಗ್ತದೆ, ಇದು ಬ್ಯಾಕ್ ಗ್ರೌಂಡ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಒಂದು ಮರೆಮಾಚಿದ ರೂಪದಲ್ಲಿ ಔತ್ಕೊಂಡು ಕೂತ್ಕೊಳ್ಳಿಕ್ಕೆ ಈಸಿ ಆಗಿರುವಂತಹ ಒಂದು ಟೆಕ್ನಿಕ್. ಸೊ ಇದರಿಂದ ಇದರ ಬೇಟೆಯಾಡುವಂತಹ ಯಾವುದು ಪ್ರಾಣಿ ಇರ್ತದೆ ಅದು ಇದನ್ನ ಕಂಡುಹಿಡಿಯಲ್ಲ. ಹಾಗಾಗಿ ಇದು ಹೋಗಿ ಅದನ್ನು ಅಟ್ಯಾಕ್ ಮಾಡ್ಲಿಕ್ಕೆ ಈಸಿ ಆಗೋ ರೀತಿಯಲ್ಲಿ ತನ್ನ ದೇಹದ ಬಣ್ಣವನ್ನ ಬದಲಾವಣೆ ಮಾಡ್ತಾರೆ. ಸೊ ದಿಸ್ ಈಸ್ an owl living in the trees having exact color of the tree box. So it cannot be distinguished here in the background, in the backdrop. So there is a snake present in the sands. So this is kind of snakes. We can only see the eyes here. Okay. So this looks exactly like the sand present in the surrounding. Okay. So the prey cannot distinguish and cannot identify this animal. So it gets preyed upon. Okay. So the classical example for camouflaging is chameleons. So these animals, change their body color as exactly in the backdrop or the background by automatic rearrangement of the pigments granules present in their skins. So rearrangement ಮಾಡ್ಕೊತವೆ, ಅದರ ಬಣ್ಣವನ್ನು ಬದಲಾವಣೆ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊತವೆ. One more example is the octopus. The octopus living in the seas also will develop to change their body colors to their background. Here is a tiger crouching in the midst of the grass, that dried up grass. We cannot distinguish. There is, we cannot identify there is a tiger inside this dry grasslands. So it is that animal's body color is so developed that it can hide in the background. Even the zebras having black and white stripes. ಯಾಕಪ್ಪ ಅಂತಂದ್ರೆ ಅದು ಕಪ್ಪು ಮತ್ತು ಬಿಳಿಯ ಪಟ್ಟೆಗಳನ್ನು ಹೊಂದಿರ್ತವೆ ಅಂತಂದ್ರೆ tigers, which are the hunters of zebras, cannot see the objects having stripes. So their eyes cannot distinguish the striped surface. The opposite to camouflaging, that is hiding from the background, is aposematism. Aposematism is a technique adopted by the animals where these animals draws the attention of potential predators to itself by bright colors and other striking features, as well as by warning sounds. By using this strategy, widely employed by Malarian mimics, a moderately poisonous or distasteful animal recalls a former incident to the memory of an experienced predator. So several animals living in the tropical environment having bright colored body color, bright adantaha body color na hondirtave. Those animals having the bright colors are poisonous and having very distasteful, okay, very obnoxious taste. ಸೊ ಹೀಗಿದ್ದಾಗ ವಾರ್ನ್ ಮಾಡ್ತವೆ. ಈ ಕಲರೇ ಪ್ರೆಡೇಟರ್ನ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಬೇಟೆಯಾಡುವಂತಹ ಜೀವಿನ ವಾರ್ನ್ ಮಾಡ್ತವೆ. ನನ್ನ ತಿಂದ್ರೆ ಒಂದು ರೀತಿ ವಿಷ ಇರ್ತದೆ ನನ್ನಲ್ಲಿ ಅಂತ. This kind of behavior is known as, this kind of adaptation is known as aposematism. Another adaptation made by the animals is anachoritic behavior. So anachoritic behavior is the utilization of barely attainable habitats such as steep places or deep soil layers. There are animals living in the steep side mountains. So they are well adapted to living over there. They can jump from place to place in the high mountains. So the mountain goats are one example. And also there is one animal named as snow leopard. Snow leopard is living in relatively colder areas. That is why that kind of leopard having very thick fur on its body, and the tail is also bigger because of the thicker fur. That animal also living in the mountainous region is well adapted to living in the unattainable habitats. So living over here will minimize the risk of getting into the predator. Next, we move on to the behavioral adaptations. There are certain behaviors made by the animals which catch away the predators, and also the behaviors are also commissioned by some animals to adapt to the temperatures of that environment. So first of that behavior is estivation. Estivation is a type of adaptation made by the arid and semi-arid animals where the temperature is very high. Because of the high temperature, their body moisture will lose. Okay? So they escape from the high temperature by estivating. Estivating is nothing but the showing of inactivity by the animals. So uh, the animals living in the desert conditions are most of them are burrowing animals. They burrow and live under the ground. So under the ground temperature will be lesser than the surface temperature. So they go there during the days and rest throughout the day. This type of behavior is known as estivation, okay? A sign of inactivity. So throughout the day they sleep. As the night falls, they are all the animals uh, plunge into the activity. So these types of animals which are active during the nights are called as nocturnal animals. Okay? So ರಾತ್ರಿ ವೇಳೆಯಲ್ಲಿ ತುಂಬಾ ಚೆನ್ನಾಗಿ ಕೆಲಸ ಮಾಡ್ತಾರೆ, ಎಲ್ಲ ಬೇಟೆಯಾಡುವಂಥದ್ದು ಎಲ್ಲ ಇದು. This is especially present in the desertic condition where during the days there will be higher temperature. As the night falls, the temperature will become colder. So during the daytime, all the predators will come out of their hidings to hunt the animals which are came out in search of food during the night. In the cold regions, uh, also in the warm region, that is hot region, animals resort to hibernating. So hibernating is a kind of behavior where they go into deep sleep. ಡೀಪ್ ಸ್ಲೀಪ್, ತುಂಬಾ ದಿನಗಳವರೆಗೆ ನಿದ್ದೆ ಮಾಡೋದನ್ನ ನಾವು ಹೈಬರ್ನೇಟ್ ಅಂತ ಕರಿತೀವಿ. So in the polar region where the temperature is very low during the winters, all the animals, especially the polar bear, went into the sleep. Okay? It sleep until the winter is ಚಳಿಗಾಲ ಮುಗಿಯೋವರೆಗೂ ಸಹ ಇದು ನಿದ್ದೆ ಮಾಡ್ತಾನೆ ಇರ್ತದೆ. ನಿದ್ದೆ ಮಾಡ್ಬೇಕಾದ್ರೆ ಅದಕ್ಕೆ ಆಹಾರ ಬೇಕಲ್ಲ, ಅದು ತನ್ನ ಬಾಡಿಯಲ್ಲಿ ಡೆಪಾಸಿಟ್ ಆಗಿರುವಂತಹ ಫ್ಯಾಟ್ ಅನ್ನು ಯೂಸ್ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಂಡು ಬದುಕಿರ್ತದೆ ಅಷ್ಟು ದಿನ. ಸೊ 4 months 5 months okay, this is called as hibernating. ಅದು ಎದ್ದಾದ್ಮೇಲೆ ಪೋಲಾರ್ ಬಿಯರ್ ತನ್ನ ದೀರ್ಘಕಾಲದ ನಿದ್ದೆಯಿಂದ ಎದ್ದಾದ್ಮೇಲೆ ಏನ್ ಮಾಡ್ತದ, ಅದರ ಬಾಡಿ ವೇಟ್ ವಿಲ್ ಬಿ reduced up to 40% of its body weight. 40% ಅಷ್ಟು ಬಾಡಿ ವೇಟ್ ಕಡಿಮೆ ಆಗಿರ್ತದೆ. ಸೊ ನಿದ್ದೆ ಮಾಡ್ತಾರೆ. ಸೊ ದಿಸ್ ಪಿಕ್ಚರ್, ದಿಸ್ ಇಸ್ ದ polar bear just awakened from its deep sleep and preying, hunting. Another behavior adopted by the animals is dymatic behavior. Dymatic behavior is an animal which finds itself within the range of a predator may display threatening postures or movements. The threat is real when an animal possesses weapons such as horns, teeth, fangs, hooves, claws, or stings, combined with obnoxious secretions. So when relatively smaller animals from the uh, uh, predators, when the predators approaches, they shows certain signs of threatening the predator. even though they are not capable of it. So these are the pictures. Some animals, when they can no longer seek safety, resort to bluffing, that is the false eyes. So this is a kind of frog. So frog is there. These dark spots looks like an eye. So the bigger eye having this will gives an impression that the animal is bigger than the predator. So the predator will fly. Okay. These are the false eyes. ಕೆಲವು ಚಿಟ್ಟೆಗಳಲ್ಲೂ ಅಷ್ಟೇ, ಚಿಟ್ಟೆಗಳಲ್ಲೂ ಡಾರ್ಕ್ ಕಲರ್ ಇರ್ತದೆ, ಅದು ಕಣ್ಣಿನ ರೂಪದಲ್ಲಿ ಇರ್ತದೆ. ಏನಕ್ಕಪ್ಪ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಪ್ರೆಡಿಟರ್ಸ್ ಭಯ ಬೀಳಿ ಅನ್ನೋ ಕಾರಣ. And another type of adaptation, another type of behavior is the thanatosis. Thanatosis is several predators do not feed upon dead prey, which could be unpleasant. Consequently, feigning death can be effective anti-predatory strategy. So, certain animals they act as the dead when the prey or predator approaches. Okay. This type of behavior is known as thanatosis. Okay. And another tactic adapted by the animals is deflection of the attack. So one anti-predatory strategy is based on offering the less vulnerable part of the body to predator. In this manner, many animals are able to limit physical damage and succeed in escaping when the predators are too close and timely flight is not possible. Okay. So ಇದು ನಿಮ್ಮ ಮನೆಯಲ್ಲೆಲ್ಲ ಗಮನಿಸಿರ್ತೀರಿ, ಹಲ್ಲಿ ಅದನ್ನ ಅಟ್ಯಾಕ್ ಮಾಡಿದಾಗ ಏನ್ ಮಾಡ್ತದೆ, ಅದು ತನ್ನ ಬಾಲನ ಬಿಟ್ಬಿಟ್ಟು ಆ ಬಾಲ ಈ ರೀತಿ ಅಲಗಾಡ್ತಾ ಇರ್ತದೆ ಒಂದ್ ಕಡೆ. ನೀವು ಆ ಬಾಲದ ಕಡೆ ಕಾನ್ಸಂಟ್ರೇಟ್ ಮಾಡಿದಾಗ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಅಲ್ಲಿಂದ ಓಡ್ಬಿಡ್ತದೆ. ಸೊ ದಿಸ್ ಈಸ್ ದ ಡಿಫ್ಲೆಕ್ಷನ್ ಟ್ಯಾಕ್ಟಿಕ್ಸ್. The lizard leave its tail. Okay. The tail will grow later. Okay. This type of tactic are used by several animals, several lizards and several insects, which can shed its body part to the predator. So this is it, everyone. Thank you very much for giving this opportunity to present my webinar on this important environmental day. Thank you.
Okay, any questions?
Thank you, sir. It was really informative. Any questions from the audience are welcome.
Okay, if there is no queries, I request everyone to enable your video just for the record purpose. Request every one of you to enable your video. ಎಲ್ಲರೂ ಕಾಣಿಸ್ಬೇಕು. Yes. Thank you. Subhashri, you can go ahead with vote of thanks.
This is my bounden duty to hand over the responsibility to Tanushree to vote her thanks to everyone.
I would start off my thanking respected Mr. Jagdish N. sir, respected Professor Sirajur Rahman sir, and teaching faculties and non-teaching faculties, and my friends. It's my privilege to have been asked to propose a vote of thanks on this occasion. Mr. Jagdish and sir have explained us about the structure and importance of plants and types of adaptations, gave us information about few animals, how they increase their body temperature and keep themselves warm, and types of mimicries, and even told us about the animals, how they change their color in order to save themselves. I extend a very heartily word of thanks to one and all present here. Thank you.
What we are doing to the environment is nothing but a mirror reflection of what we are doing to ourselves. By saying this, I would like to thank all of you whose presence has made this event a successful one. A feedback link will be shared to all of you at the end of the meeting, so I would request everybody to fill out the forms. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Jagdish sir.
Thank you, Jagdish sir. Once again, thank you. Thank you. It's a nice program. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.